So here is another Cheery game. Since this thing is so much maligned by most World of Tanks players, I figure it's kind of a thing I should do to put out some videos of what it's actually capable of, and also just, give some ideas on how to play it and talk about why I think it's not nearly as bad as people make out. Here we've ended up in a tier 9 match, only one tier 9 per side, but the match is mostly tier 8s. And not only that, the enemy team is mostly comprised of tier 8s that either have very big guns or very heavy armor, or in most cases both. So not really ideal hunting ground for a Cheery. Also on my platoon is Sterling Archer in a T20 and Marius Lecter in a T29, so they brought their carry tanks. Interesting first move from the enemy team, pushing a Rheinmetall down into C5, C6. It's a very risky play. If we'd had some actual competent medium tank drivers, instead of the fucking idiot Type 69 we got stuck with, that guy would probably be dead already. For some reason, all three of our tier 8 medium tanks decided to take the longest possible route to get onto the zero line, and in fact expose themselves to that JT-88 by doing so. If you're playing this map in a medium tank and coming to the village, you cut across the field, you do not ever go down the road. I managed to catch ESTA unawares, dump a clip into him, but he does hit me back. So at the moment it's just Sterling, myself, and the Type 59 in the village. The other two mediums are hiding in the back where the TDs would normally be. All our TDs are in the city, which is not necessarily a bad thing because we have quite a lot of heavily armoured TDs with big guns. The STA, unfortunately for me, manages to land a nice snapshot there. At the moment we're trading damage equally. I got off more damage in the first engagement, he got off more damage in the second. Not ideal. I managed to get a hit on the ELC there, right as somebody lands team damage on the guy who was attacking. I was kind of playing too riskily here. I got a bit too greedy, wanting shots on the 416 and the STA. Thankfully, I got away with it. So the STA's just been lit, he gets another shot into me. I didn't think he was looking my way. I'm able to get one into him, but obviously he hits a lot harder per shot than I do. This is careless play by me, but it pays off because he isn't actually looking my way. He gets another shot into me. At this point, I'm really taking a risk by trying to get this guy. I got too greedy there. I would still have most of my hit points if I hadn't chased him for so long. But at this point in time, it seemed like our team was doing well enough that I could afford to throw away hit points in order to take down one of the top tier enemy mediums, who was actually in a good position to get work done. It looks like we've won this flank, with the JT-88 about to go down and our team pushing out through the field. However, nobody's accounted for that Rheinmetall Borsig, which is actually still in the same position, almost C5, and the second one is at A6, and between them they've got our team caught in crossfire. I can't afford to take hits, so I can't push up. Our other mediums just suicided out into the middle of all that. The smart play from them would have been to stop when they saw all that shit get lit up, but unfortunately they were not smart players, so that wasn't what they did. There's no way I'm pushing the field. Not even with that T-34-2 to help me. So instead I take to trying to get shots into this proto while screening my right side from those TDs with these buildings here. I did try to spot the Rheinmetall there, but it wasn't going to be a thing. It has way too much camera for me to spot at this distance, especially through about 3 or 4 rows of bushes. However, the T-28 Proto drives out nicely and lets me get a couple of shots into him. Our T-34-2 is in a bad position. He's moved up too far. He can be hit. Which is in fact what is happening. Meanwhile, in town, our team is scattered from arsehole to breakfast, and we have Rheinmetall and Ferdinand trying to take on a T-95 front on, which is not at all clever. So if you watch the scoreboard, about 2 minutes ago it looked like we were going to win this pretty comfortably, and now it looks like we're going to lose this. JT88 drives past, gives me an easy shot. I fuck up here by driving out. Thankfully he doesn't roll high enough to kill me. He does take me down to 1 hit point, and then I get cleaned up by driving in front of the Roomba, which has actually pushed all the way out. Now, I could possibly have taken the JT88 if I was a little more careful there, but at this point it doesn't really matter. The rest of this game is just depressing, the amount of incompetence on display by our team. I was hit the 2 times time acceleration because I don't want to have to sit out the whole thing at real-time speed. So JT takes out the JT88. Carnarvon trades away more hit points than he can really afford to, fighting this almost stock IS. That looks like a 100mm idiot gun to me. Now watch what our TDs do. This is just really incredible play from our TDs. Ferdinand suicides in front of the Rheinmetall. Then our other Rheinmetall suicides in front of it as well. And asks how it reloads so fast when it has the exact same gun as him. No doubt he's running a 50% crew with no equipment. And here comes the real prize winner. Our Carnarvon takes a hit off that guy, but does manage to kill him. Now the Carnarvon can be one shot easily. But watch this. This is some fucking Special Olympics shit right here. The Carnarvon is lagging so badly he can't fucking hit this guy, and he's also hitting the wreck in front of him, trying to shoot under its gun. And the Rheinmetall is just so fucking bad he can't hit, period. So these two spend something like a minute and a half just flailing at each other uselessly. This guy hitting the fucking thing in the track when it's got a turret. Fat little good that's gonna do. I actually thought that we were going to win this. I hoped that we did just because I like winning, but honestly neither team deserved this. It was a complete shit show. In fact, if this guy hadn't been complaining about lag, I'm not sure if he was actually lagging or if he's just useless and wanted an excuse, but if he hadn't fucked up there, we would have had a win. So, 2.9k damage in a Cheery in a tier 9 match. I mean, there's only so much you can do. I don't think being in a Comet or a T20 or a T29 or even a KV5 would have made that any less disastrous than it was. There's only so much you can do when your team insists on... First of all, our mediums didn't take the crucial position. They fucked around down here on the 0 line instead of getting up on the E line where they should have been with me. So they threw that advantage away by letting enemy TDs and mediums get up in this area, which they would have shots on otherwise. And then they fucking suicided out into a crossfire. They had TDs here, and fucking TDs here. That's a fucking 3-sided box they drove into. I mean, I don't know what the guys in town were doing. I honestly don't have a clue. Someone died here, which is stupid. Someone died here, which is stupid. If you die on fucking Crescent Road, there's something wrong with you. You shouldn't be pushing up in a way that exposes you to fire on that road. I don't even know what's going on here. These guys just fucking all spread out and didn't do anything useful. It's just no cohesion at all in that team. I mean, Carnarvon tried, bless him. He did try, and I think he must have been suffering lag problems at the end because he seemed to know what he was doing too much for that to have been just bad play. And, you know, it happens. The fucking network infrastructure that the North American World of Tanks servers are actually, you know, placed on fucking is absolutely atrocious. absolutely atrocious. I mean, I could live next door to the server and still have problems. I think one of the servers, I can't recall which one, I think it's the west server, routes to the east coast before it goes back to the west. So even if you live right next to the west coast server, which I believe is in San Francisco, you still have that fucking routing to the east coast. I mean, for me, I could only fucking imagine what bizarre and wonderful places it routes me through to get to it, and there's constant packet loss, the ping spikes up, and then I've got the issues of me having a shared internet connection. I share my connection with my housemates. And then there's a simple fact, I live in Australia, so my internet connection is guaranteed to be shithouse. But, you know, I don't know, somebody must have started downloading stuff on his connection, or maybe his router was fucking up, who knows. He played well enough, he gets an excuse. The rest of our team, on the other hand, absolutely do not. Those medium tank drivers were just poster children for how not to play mediums on this map. That should have been an easy win for us. Unfortunately, it just went to shit. But I think this is going to be probably my last Cheery video in this version of the game. So this is 9.0 still. 9.1 is out right now. I just haven't patched the game yet because I've got a couple games to finish recording. There may or may not be more Cheery videos. I'm keeping the tank, I just don't know how often I'll play it. I have, I think, a couple of thousand XP to finish grinding out on it. But after that I'll probably play it every now and then, just as a sort of weird little break from my more conventional tanks. It is fun to play. It's interesting to play. I think it's a very skill-intensive tank. You have to know what you're doing. It's very much like the French autoloaders. It can't take a hit, and it's a pretty huge target. It's like a Lorraine, actually, except slow. Well, not slow, just not as quick as a Lorraine. So you need to be able to set yourself up to dive in on a tank that's distracted, dump 3 shots into it, fuck off, and just, you know, you've got to be an opportunist. This tank is absolutely around opportunistic play. Sniping, kind of, but really I think the sort of close to mid-range, just dive in, dump clip, move. I don't want to say it's like an IS, because it's not. The IS hits for the same amount of damage and hits about every so often. They both fire a shot, or say, if we count this thing's 3-shot burst for 390 alpha as 1 shot, they both fire every 9 or 10 seconds. The issue being the IS has armor, this thing doesn't. Mobility, I think they're both about the same. Camo, they're both about the same. I think they're about the same size. The IS might actually be slightly smaller, very small for a heavy tank. But, I mean, they're similar but different. The IS brawls well because it can take a hit, and because it has that really big gun. This thing hits as hard as the IS, as often as the IS. It just can't take the hits like the IS can, and its shots, you know, it is a 3-round clip, so it's 1, 2, 3, 130 damage each. So if you roll a little higher, a little low, it might come back to bite you if you only land 1 or 2 shots. But I think still it's not that bad in close range fights, as long as you've got somebody else to take the hits for you. I think it's a tank people sledge on because it's difficult to play, not because it's bad, and I think that's true of most tanks in the game. I think there are, honestly, I think I could count on one hand the number of tanks in this game which are legitimately bad. Certainly there are tanks that are weaker than others. This is certainly not going to carry a game as consistently as a Tiger or a T29 or Comet or T20. Any of them will win more games than this, just by the simple fact they're more flexible, they're better at what they do. But this thing, I don't think is at any enormous disadvantage to any other real tank in the game. Certainly not to the point people make it out to be. So I would say the Cheery's an alright little tank. I wouldn't say it's bad. I'd say it's just difficult. I'd say it's the kind of tank you play if you want to actually improve at the game. Like if you're already good at the game but you want to keep improving, this is the kind of thing you play. Tanks that are naturally at a little bit of a disadvantage, but which you can capitalize on. I mean, there are tanks that not even the best player in the world would be able to do much with. But this one, I think, if you know what you're doing with it, you can really make it work. And I know a couple of other goons actually really enjoyed playing it too, because, like I said, they were able to make it work. As for the line in general, I would not recommend going up the Japanese line for the average player, simply because the tanks just cannot take hits, and so much of the line, they're not mobile enough to avoid being hit. They're not well camoed enough to avoid being hit. And I mean, they hit okay for their tier, but I mean, the mobility and the survivability of these things is kind of on the low end. Mobility, I think, compares somewhat to the Centurion, so they're agile, but they're not fast. The problem is the Centurion has a very well-armoured turret. None of these have armour anywhere, until you hit the STB-1, which has a somewhat armoured turret. But keep in mind, it's still no T-54, and certainly no Centurion. The lower tiers are alright. The Kiho in particular I've found to be quite fun, the little tier 4 light tank. So I'd say the real gems of this line are probably at tier 4, or tier 3 and tier 4 because of the Chiha and the Kiho. And then tier 6, apparently the Cheeto is okay. I haven't played it, just because I didn't want to grind through it, but apparently it's not actually too bad for a tier 6. And then this thing, I don't know if I'd say it's a highlight of the line, but I'd say it's interesting, and I'd say everyone who's going up the line should at least play a couple games in it to try and figure the thing out. You might enjoy it. The STA is a higher DPM Pershing with no armor, and it's a bigger target. I don't really see the appeal of it. I mean, some people make it work, but honestly, I'd rather just play the Pershing or the Centurion, or the T-44, or definitely the 416. The Type 61 seems okay. It's, again, completely unarmored, quite large, but it does have a good gun. And then the STB is definitely one of the best medium tanks in the game, if not the best medium tank currently in the game. It's the middle of the pack for camo, middle of the pack for mobility, about middle of the pack for armor too, actually. But it has the highest DPM of any medium in the game. It has full 10 degrees of gun depression. It has, standard tier 10 medium view range. Actually, no, I think it has 410, which is second best. Best being 420 on the pattern. So the STB is probably the most flexible medium tank in tier 10, and it's quite fun to play. I really enjoyed it in the test server, and I'm going to be really happy once I finally get it in the live server. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to shut up and end this video here, and there should be a couple more 9.0 games on the way, and then we'll see how we go with 9.1 and later.